I was looking at some research last week, and the #1 New Year's resolution for Americans was weight loss. And out of all the people that filled out the survey and recorded their goal as being weight loss, only 8% of them actually followed through. And out of that 8%, there wasn't a lot of information about what follow through really meant. So I would be willing to bet that only 2 to 3% actually achieved their goal, whatever it was, and kept the weight off. Now that probably doesn't surprise you because it's a very common resolution, and most people set out to achieve a goal at the beginning of the year, and most don't make it, as you can see by the statistics. But all you need to do is go into the gym and see that it's packed to the walls in January. And when February comes around, it's back to the old crew that's been in the gym for the previous years, and the New Year's resolutioners have given up on their goals already. Whenever I ask someone why they haven't achieved their fitness goals or their weight loss goals or whatever goals they have for their health and fitness, most of the time I get I don't have enough motivation, or I don't know how to keep myself consistent. Because let's face it, most of us know what we need to be doing. We know that regular training and focusing on our diet and eating better is all part of the equation, and we have to be consistent with all of those things in order to reach our goals. We all know that. But for whatever reason, just knowing what to do or having the knowledge doesn't get us to act, and it doesn't help us reach our goals, even though we know what we need to do. When I think of so-called fitness motivation, it's mostly just a bunch of weightless words on meaningless images meant to inspire you to action. But this type of motivation only lasts so long. And the reason for that is because motivation is very similar to a fickle feeling or an emotion. In reality, it's mostly just a short-lived burst of inspiration that only serves you in the moment, and it doesn't really take you anywhere. And when we seek out motivation, it's usually in a time when we're not very happy with the way things are going, or we wish something about our diet or training was different, or we wish our bodies looked different, or we wish that things were moving faster. That's typically when we look for extra motivation. It's exactly why fad diets and juice fasts and cleanses become so popular around the new year, because we want something quick and we want something fast. And if we see progress really quickly, that serves as a little bit more motivation to keep us going and to keep us focused. But many times when we look for these quick fixes, we're actually sabotaging ourselves, because what we're trying to do is avoid the pain of the hard work. We're trying to avoid the task of being consistent on a daily basis and not missing a training session and being really focused on the diet and eating the way that you want to eat to achieve your goals. Something in our brains just tell us that there has to be a secret, there has to be something that's different that's going to allow us to get results quicker. That's why it's easy to turn to fat loss pills or that ab belt that you saw on late night TV that promises you quick results in a short period of time. And it's much easier to fall for those things and go after those shortcuts than it is to train 3 times per week or do squats every other day. And I totally get it, because that is hard work compared to what a fat loss pill might promise. But what it does in the short term is it just sets you up for disappointment. So instead of looking for shortcuts and short bursts of motivation, instead of looking for that next best thing that's going to help you achieve your goals faster, I want to encourage you to start thinking a little bit differently about motivation. And instead of looking for motivation, I want you to focus on building momentum. Now, when I say momentum, what I'm focusing on here is consistency. Consistency over perfection. Take action of some sort. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the best thing that you can absolutely do. It just needs to be consistent. So instead of setting yourself up for failure by trying to do a 6-day program, why not focus on a 3-day program in the beginning and be consistent and don't miss a day? The more days you can log as a success, the easier it's going to be in the long run. And here's something I want to let you in on. All those people you see on the internet, at the gym, all those people that are successful and have built their bodies and they're an example of where you want to be, I want you to understand that they have this down. The momentum that they've built over the years is what's given them the results that you see right now. And something else I really want you to know is most of these people don't feel motivated 99% of the time. I don't always feel motivated to go to the gym. I don't feel motivated all the time to do mobility work or to eat right. It would be easier to order something in than to cook food for myself, but I understand the importance of what I put in my body. I understand the importance of training on a consistent basis and following a program. And I've done it for long enough that I know the results outweigh the short-term feeling of giving in to those impulses or those emotions that might make me feel better in the short term. And trust me, I'm not perfect. You know, when I was younger, I fell for a lot of the quick fixes and the pills and the fad diets, and I did all that stuff, and I had to learn the hard way. So what I've learned in my journey is that the quick fixes and the shortcuts, they feel good in the beginning, and it feels like you're making progress because you've made a decision to do something different or improve yourself by changing your plan. But what ends up happening in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks is you start to see the negative effects because it's either something that you can't keep up or it's unrealistic, and so you just give up and you go off your plan, and then you're sitting there wondering like, wow, I've given up again. How am I going to get back on this train? What am I going to do? So it can be this really bad negative spiral of feeling inspired, changing your plan, doing something for yourself, getting frustrated, falling off the bandwagon, and then trying to figure it out again, and then looking for motivation and doing this cycle over and over and over again until eventually you get really frustrated and you can't trust yourself to follow through. You can't keep the promises that you made to yourself. And after a while, that really weighs on your confidence and it weighs on your ability to do what you said you would do. So here's my challenge to you going forward. I'm challenging you to put yourself first with exercise, with training, with nutrition, with doing all the things you know you should do on a daily basis and being really consistent and building that momentum. Because if you don't have your health, you don't have your mobility, you don't have your strength and fitness, you don't have much, because we're only as good as our health and we're only as good as our habits. So in saying that, I'm encouraging you to build momentum instead of relying on motivation. And I want to give you a quick analogy of what motivation versus momentum looks like. And I'm going to use a train because I'm looking at a train track right now and it's a really good example. So motivation is like a feeling. It's much like being sad or happy or frustrated or mad or feeling joy. And when you feel those emotions, you feel those feelings, it's instantaneous and it happens for a short period. And motivation is just another emotion or feeling. You feel it for a moment and then 30 seconds later it's gone. Just like if someone cut you off in traffic, you feel angry and frustrated and mad, but within a couple seconds and you're back to focused on driving, you kind of forget about it. You don't stay angry for the rest of the afternoon. So motivation is very similar in that, like a train, if you're standing by a train track and you watch the train coming in, it's like an emotion, it's like a feeling. And as that train comes through, you see it approaching and it arrives and then it just keeps going, then you see the emotion going away. The emotion is fleeting. You'll soon look off in the distance and the train will be nowhere in sight. So just like your emotions, just like your feelings, it comes and it goes. So remember, motivation is not something that you can rely on. It's not something that's going to be there all the time. Just because you feel it right now doesn't mean you're going to feel it forever. And the truth is, you don't need motivation to consistently hit your goals. You don't need motivation to go to the gym on a consistent basis. Now I want to use an example of how to think about a train as a way of building momentum. Now, most train cars are very large. They weigh thousands and thousands of pounds. Traditionally, it was very hard to get them going. When they used to run off coal, it took a lot of energy in the beginning to get them moving forward because it's a pretty heavy piece of equipment. Getting it to propel itself forward is incredibly difficult. But once the train starts moving, it starts building up momentum. And the faster it goes, the harder it is to stop. And as the train moves forward and is traveling over a long distance, it doesn't have to use as much energy anymore. It can pretty much coast because it's built up momentum over time. It took a lot of energy in the beginning to get it going, but now that it's going, it doesn't need to spend near as much energy as it did getting going in the first place. Now, this is why this analogy is so important for building momentum in the gym and building momentum with our diet. It's oftentimes hard to get started in the beginning, and you're gonna feel the resistance and you're gonna feel some friction. It's not gonna be easy to go to the gym 3 times per week if you've not been doing that consistently. But if you make it a priority and you make it happen, the first few weeks are gonna be tough. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And the more it becomes a routine, and more it becomes ingrained into your daily and weekly habits. The same goes with nutrition. We know that we should be eating better. We know that there are things that we could do that are better than the choices we've been making, but it's hard in the beginning. But the more consistent you are, the better off you're going to be. And over time, you're going to look back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months. And as long as you've built up the momentum and you've been pushing yourself, you've been consistent in the gym, you've been eating better and doing all these things for you, you're going to look back in that period of time and be so excited that you did it. But it's going to be hard. And in the beginning, you're not going to feel like making that breakfast that will set the tone for the day. You may not feel like going to the gym in the morning, but you know that if you don't do it, you might be reluctant to do it the next day. So in this case, building the momentum is way more important than any feeling you could have in the moment. Because while you may feel motivated right now, watching this video to get to the gym and to make changes, you may not feel that tomorrow morning. But just because you don't feel it tomorrow morning doesn't mean it's not important. So my goal for you is to look back in the next 6 months and be so excited that you chose momentum over motivation. Thanks for watching. My name is JC Dean, and here's to choosing momentum over motivation.